Next we have, or we're going to go over for loops. This time we're going to use a similar example, except we're going to prompt the user to enter in how many inputs they want to put in, and then we're going to use a for loop to add up those numbers and provide the sum. So first thing we want to do is prompt the user. Enter in the amount of inputs you have. Then we're going to store that. We're going to make a new UI. We'll call it UI2, since we used UI for the first one. And we're going to store the value into UI2. Don't forget your ampersand here. Okay, so this will set how many times we're going to loop our for loop. So for our for loop, we need its own variable. I'm just going to use I in this case. So for I, let me just set up the template again here. For the conditions, remember they're going to have like 3 different things in here. We're going to initialize the variable. We're going to set the condition for looping. As long as I is less than user input 2, then I++, and loop this over and over again until this middle condition is met. So just for example, I'm going to print out the I value. I equals percent d ui. Okay. And I'm actually going to put a 0 on this one, so it won't even enter that loop. I'll comment that out, and I'll redeclare sum here, or redefine it. And let's see how this looks. Say we have 5 inputs. So I is not changing. Why is that? Because I did not put it here. Okay. 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are 5 inputs. It looped 5 times. Fantastic. Okay. So comment that out. So our instructions is to have the user input the number of inputs they have. We did that. So the user inputs are int values, and they can be plus or minus this time. So we'll prompt the user. Enter plus or minus int value. Okay, and then we'll store it again. And UI2. Don't forget your ampersand. Okay, and we have no limits on the numbers. We don't need a breaking condition because we already know how many we're going to enter. And then we're going to print out the sum. So we actually need to compute the sum. We redeclared it here. So sum plus equals UI2. Okay, so we didn't need to do an if-else for a negative number to exit, to break the loop. We forced the user to tell us how many they were going to enter in the first place. So now at the end here, we can just state your sum is. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to enter in 5 here, but I'm going to show you something. I'm going to put a -1, and it quit working. Why is that? I'm going to go back here. Well, I have user input 2. As long as I is less than user input 2, then I++, continue the loop. But notice I changed the value of UI2 here. So if I make it -1, I is already greater than UI2. So this indicates that I need another user input. So I'll do this. User input 3. I'll replace this here. Save that. sure I'm summing up UI3. Give that a try. I'm going to say there are 5 inputs. Put a -1 there. +1, -1, +1, and let's put a 0 here. Your sum is 0. So these numbers negate each other, these numbers negate each other. You get a 0 here. Try it again. And we'll have 5, so 1, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5. 15, so 3, 3, 6, 10, 15. Looks good. And for the last topic we're going to talk about, switch statements. We're going to do it via example as well. I'm going to paste the requirements for this example. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to prompt the user for input. The input should be between 0 and 3 using int types. And we're going to use a switch case statement to print out certain printf statements that we just make up on the fly for the case of values 0, 1, 2, and 3. Anything else above that should be the default case and should say, you know, this is out of the range of cases or something like that. We'll make it up on the fly. But if a negative number is entered, what we want to do is actually break out of a while loop. So this while loop is going to just keep repeating this code over and over again. So that'll be our break. So in general, I'm just going to start here with our while loop that runs forever. And then I'm going to prompt the user. Please enter in an int value between 0 and 3. So I guess we can use our default case to tell the user that they didn't enter in a proper number. So let's see here. We need to do a scanf, and guess what we need? We need a UI4. I could use an old one, but it's good practice right now to show you guys. So declaring a variable is simply putting the type and the name of the variable. It gets defined here. Okay, so once we've entered that, we need our switch statement. So just like the rest of them, let's make a template here. And the value we're going to be scrutinizing is UI4. And now we're going to have cases. Cases are the values. So there's going to be a 0 case, a 1 case, 2 case, and 3 case. And then the default case, of course. So I personally like to tab these in. You can choose what to do on your own. So we'll print a statement here. You've entered 0. So notice I'm not going to put %d in here because that's pretty much done for me via the case here. The case that UI is 0. I can just straight up manually put that in there. So I'm going to do that for the rest. Now remember, you need break statements after each of these cases, or else the rest of the code will run underneath it. But right now I'm going to leave it out and show you what happens. Okay, I'm going to comment out the for loop above. Give that a try. Okay. When you get an error, you can double click here. Let's see. I needed a break in my default. Simply just added that in right there. I forgot to take that out of the very first one. I apologize. Let's see. please enter in an int value between 0 and 3. So I'm going to put 0, you have entered 0, you have entered 0, you have entered 0. Please enter in an int. So this is why it says 0, 0, 0 here. 1, 2, 3. Throwing in the new lines so we can make it readable. Find the error. So this is actually still running. If you get an error like this with the .exe in there, you need to kill the program. See, remember this is while loop, so it was waiting for me to enter in a value. While I'm at it, I'm going to take this out. Okay. Alright, here we go. We're into the while loop. I got prompted. Now I'm going to enter in a value, 0. But notice it said 0, 1, 2, 3. But if we add this break, we need to get out of this so I can rerun it with the new code. Enter in 0, and it's done. And it moves on to the next loop. And put 0 in again, put 1 in, but notice 1, it gets into case here because UI is set to 1 here, so it goes to case 1, runs this code, but it also continues and runs every other case after it until it hits this default break. So I don't want that to happen. Some programs you might want to do that actually, but in this one I do not. So I'm going to put a break statement underneath each one. Now I'm going to close this program, run it. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So notice 4 doesn't have a case actually, it's the default case. So let's put in a printf here. You have reached default case. Out of bounds. Gonna kill this program and rerun it. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've reached the default case. I'm out of bounds. I didn't put a new line here. So let's see if I put a negative number. Hit enter. I'm also out of bounds. So let me put a new line here. Running it again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4 and 5 are out of bounds. Negative 1, negative 100. Out of bounds, because there's no cases for this, so it's jumping straight to the default case. So this is nice, because now it's handling any out of bounds numbers here. So really good for menus. So if we want to break this while loop, I said based on a negative value. So we've done this in the past. So instead of saying they're out of bounds on a negative value, let's check to see if the user inputs negative. If UI is less than 0. If it is, I want to actually, let's see, I want to do that actually outside of this default. I don't even want it to get into the switch statement. I want to check it up here. I want to break this while loop before we even get into the switch statement. So that'll actually stop it. So let's run that. Oh, I still have it open. So 0, 1, whoops. Control Z. Not UI, sorry, UI4. 0, 1, 2, 3. 4 is out of bounds. 500 should be out of bounds. Negative 1. It actually ends right here. Does not even get into the switch statement. Perfect. And that's basically all of this required. You can go further and do some more stuff underneath. Once you've reached, say, a certain part of the menu and you want to do some, say, averaging, standard deviation maybe. So you can maybe get a guess of what the second assignment will be, like using the switch statement. Maybe not printing out all the values right away, instead asking the user which average, standard deviation, or whatever statistic I would like to see. Alright, so that should be it for the Chapter 4 review. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email.